on Heat 100 Radio, heat100radio.com. And we are also live Facebook today. You know the group, SportsRap Podcast is the group, so you can get there and tune in and check us out. So, in the opening, I talked about the NFL Week 15, talked about the Eagles, talked a little bit about the Jets getting their first win. And now we want to move into our NBA talk because NBA talk is right on point. The schedule opens tomorrow for the NBA, for most of the NBA. Well, there's two games tomorrow, and then it really kicks off on Wednesday. The Sixers also kick off on Wednesday at home against the Washington Wizards. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple things. I'm going to give you the Christmas Day schedule, which is this week, and then we'll proceed on from there. So, one of the things I want to talk about as we get into this, and we're going to start right here with the Western Conference, is the offseason power rankings going into the opening of this new season. So, with that being said, of course, we know that the defending champions, the LA Lakers, are ranked number one in the Western Conference as of right now. Some key additions to their roster for this year: Gerald McKay, thanks for tuning in. Mark Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews, and Dennis Schroeder. Really good additions for a team that just is coming off of a championship season. There are key parts that they lost, and they filled those roles with the few players that they did add. And their key departures are Avery Bradley, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, and Rajon Rondo. So like I mentioned to you, who they have added in, they have filled the voids that they had with those particular players leaving. Ironically, two of those players landing all the way on the East with the Philadelphia 76ers. Moving along, we go into the number 2 ranked team, this is pretty similar from last year, the LA Clippers. Their key additions are Serge Ibaka and Luke Kennard. The key departures for them are Coach Doc Rivers, JaMychal Green, Montrezl Harrell, and Landry Shamet. I don't think those two guys that they brought in, Serge Ibaka and Luke Kennard, may help a little bit, but they still have a void as far as one particular void, mainly the coach. Then second, the players that they lost, Montrezl Harrell, who was a big part of that team last year, which is going to be hard to fill. Also, JaMychal Green had his own stake in that team, and Landry Shamet was beginning to come on, another former Sixer. Team 3, I think it is the Denver Nuggets. Yes, the Denver Nuggets. Then we go into, I'm a little confused here, but excuse me. We're going to move into the Dallas Mavericks at number 6. Number 7, the Houston Rockets. The 8th place team, who moved up a lot, and I think they had a lot of improvements, is the Phoenix Suns, a nice up-and-coming young team. Number 9, the Golden State Warriors, who are getting back into the mix. Unfortunately, they had that hiccup with Clay being injured again. So we'll see what happens with them when they start the season. Number 10, the Memphis Grizzlies. 11, the New Orleans Pelicans. The Minnesota Timberwolves are at 12. 13 is the San Antonio Spurs, which is surprising to see them this low. 14, the Sacramento Kings, and the Oklahoma City Thunder round out the Western Conference at number 15. So, there are some teams that have gotten better in the West, and there are some teams that pretty much stayed the same. Some of those teams are young, so they'll have some years on their hands as well. Now, as I was preparing this morning, I caught a glimpse of something, and as you know, recently, the last several week or so, there was a lot of rumors about James Harden, a lot of talk about the Sixers, a lot of talk about Ben Simmons being allegedly made available, yada, yada, yada. Just saw something this morning that says, and this is per open court, The Rockets are in advanced discussions to send James Harden to the Denver Nuggets for Jamal Murray, a plethora of future picks, and Michael Porter Jr. Now, as a Sixers fan, I would say go ahead and do that. So then the pressure or our names would be out of the news and out of the mix in this whole situation. But as far as a basketball fan, again, I honestly still believe that that is too much. Jamal Murray, a leader, all-star on that team, a plethora of future picks. So at this point, we don't even know what picks they are. Okay. And another young player, up and coming young player, Michael Porter Jr. Just for James Harden. That's it. It's a lot there. And I said this from the very beginning when we got wind of James Harden wanting to be or presenting that he wanted to be moved, that they would ask for a boatload of stuff back for him. You know, almost a king's ransom, if you will, for a trade involving James Harden. And right now, I don't feel like it's a good move for the Sixers, although a lot of people would disagree with me because of his offense. But in my opinion, where they were last year being swept by Boston in the first round and after having high expectations for the season, I feel like you have to give these young stars and this new core some time under this new regime of coaching staff, which in my opinion overall is a better coaching staff than what was previously here. These guys in a small way overachieved and had the talent more so than the coaching and the nurturing that will propel them to the next level. I think you can start with these guys here and with this coaching staff. So I would not like to see them make a move for James Harden at this point. Ranking the Eastern Conference, and I'm sure the Milwaukee Bucks are at the top of the list at number 1. And yes, they are. Miami Heat, number 2. Boston, number 3. Brooklyn, number 4. Toronto, number 5. The Philadelphia 76ers are at number 6. Then we got the Indiana Pacers at 7. Orlando Magic at 8. Washington Wizards at 9. Atlanta Hawks at 10. 11 Chicago. 12 the Hornets. 13 the Knicks. 14 the Pistons. And rounding out at 15 the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the Sixers being ranked at number 6 in that role there. Mike McClendon, what's going on? I don't feel like that's too bad of a position for them. I think that they, once this thing comes together with all these new additions and new coaching staff, I think that they can improve on that and be higher than 6. That's actually a drop off from where they were last year. They were number 5 last year, I think. No, they did fall to number 6 last year. So I think they made some improvements to improve on that number 6 ranking as well. But it's still yet to be seen. It's still early. You know, like I said, the season is set to get underway tomorrow. But I think there are a lot of good things that can be brought about the Sixers team. What up, Ty? Thanks for tuning in. So, moving along, and I'm going to get into some more Sixer stuff in just a minute. Some other things that we looked at, that we always look at, and I'm going to go through this, and whoever's tuned in, you can give me some opinions on what you think about this list. I went through the list. I did some things last week, but I went through another list, and I found another NBA top 10 ranked players. This is from ESPN.com. Okay, I'm going to go give you these list of players from 10 going down to number 1. At number 10, Nikola Jokic. Number 9, James Harden. Number 8, Steph Curry. 7, Dame Lillard. Number 6, Kevin Durant. Number 5, Kawhi Leonard. Number 4, Luka Doncic. Number 3, Giannis. Number 2, AD. And number 1, LeBron. And this is the most recent one that I saw. I saw some that were different, had some names shuffled around in some other places, some other names on this top 10 list that are not in this particular list. As you see, there are no Sixers on this list. which I think is a surprise because I think that when he's playing well, and I understand he has had his issues the past several seasons or pretty much throughout his entire career so far, but nonetheless, the skill set and the play when he plays is there. Joel Embiid, I think, should have been in this top 10 list. I think Joel Embiid is the top 7, top 8 player in the league. There are also some other names who could arguably be added into this top 10 list. You know, there's a lot of names that you could argue that you could swap out this person for that person or that person for this person. So this is just one list. And, you know, I see where they're going with it. There's been a lot of talk about MVP favorites, early predictions, early projections. There's been a lot of talk about Luka Doncic and Dame Lillard. But there are other players as well. I think those two are the fan favorites, if you will, as far as the selections. And it could change. Those are, like I said, these are preseason early predictions, but that could very well change. We have seen things change in the past, and I'm sure that this could possibly change as well. But getting back to the Sixers and none of them being in this top 10, I gave you where their rankings were last week. And in the top 15, you did have Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons within that top 15 ranking of players in the top 100. Some of the other players were lower down there, and that's not a big issue. But I think with the additions of the Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Dwight Howard, especially Danny Green and Dwight Howard, two guys that are coming off of a championship. Let's see here. Todd says, consistently being in ball shape, I think would increase his value and place him in that top 10. Absolutely, Todd. I agree with that. That's one of the things I just said. You know, that when he's playing, he's arguably the best or one of the best centers in the league, one of the best players in the league. But that's also depends on how he is physically, and I mean in shape or not in shape or whatever. So he definitely has to work on that, and I think he now has the coaching staff that will make sure that he is in shape. As we have heard throughout this short training camp so far from coaching staff and from teammates, that he looks to be in shape. We hope that's true. We hope that is set to form when the season begins on Wednesday. Now, also, you have to take into consideration what I was going to say was the additions of Danny Green and Dwight Howard, two guys that are coming off championship seasons, won multiple championships, that can bring in their knowledge and their veteran leadership and teach these guys how to win, how to win more than anything else, how to win. And it goes to show that these guys are willing at their stage in their career. I mean, coming off of a championship team, they both have sacrificed. I mean, they were traded. Danny Green said he was actually excited that the Sixers wanted him and brought him in. Dwight Howard felt like he could come and make an impact on Joel and improve what he has already seen from Joel. And I like the fact that those guys are taking that standpoint in this whole issue. But they are going to be key parts on this team this year. Okay, I think it's going to help Joel. As we saw in game 1 of the preseason, when Joel played in the post, he had a lot of room to operate now because they have the spacing, but they also have the threats within the spacing as far as Danny Green and Seth Curry, the shooters. They also have improvements, as we've seen in 2 games, from Furkan Korkmaz and especially Shake Million, who Doc Rivers is very high on right now. We also like what we've seen from the rookie Tyrese Maxey. And I would like to see Isaiah Joe get into that mix a little bit more because he is another shooter. But we will see what happens. We'll see how it goes in. I also still need to see a little bit more from Tobias Harris. I'm hoping, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, when he was traded to the Sixers, he was playing under Doc Rivers and was arguably a all-star candidate at that particular point. So hopefully Doc can restore that in him and get him to the point where he could also be, again, another all-star candidate, if you will. But I think it's not going to happen overnight, like we said. I like what I saw in the 2 preseason games. Of course, excuse me, especially the last game Friday night against Indiana, where they were down by a lot, but they fought back and they came back and they held on and they won that game. And that was a lot with the bench. So I think Doc was looking at these 2 preseason games to organize his bench and try and get a read on how his rotation is going to play out. And I think he got a good look at those bench guys. And I think he has some things that he can put in play with those bench guys and not solidify, but improve that bench from what it was last year and moving on throughout the season. So, with that being said, I'm going to take another quick break. When I come back, I'm going to pick up with some more stuff. I'm going to give you the preseason NBA awards predictions, and we're going to talk a little bit more Sixers. We're also going to talk about the Christmas Day schedule and the opening day schedule tomorrow and for the Sixers on Wednesday with the Wizards. You are tuned in to Sports Rap Heat 100 Radio. It's your boy D. See you on the other side in just a couple minutes.